Yes, it's time for another album ranking. Today we are ranking Linkin Park. Now, Linkin Park is very dear to me. I love this band. Those that have subbed to me for a long time, you know that I really enjoy Linkin Park. You know I really enjoy all their albums, including the album One More Light. So we have 7 albums to rank today, from the weakest to the best. And you know what? I listened to Linkin Park this morning, a whole entire discography this morning. I gotta say, it was one hell of a ride. It took me a few hours, but I listened from Hyrbrid Theory all the way to One More Light. I can give you a ranking. I already knew my ranking before I listened. I just have these albums cemented when it comes to rankings for Linkin Park. I was hearing Chester's pain, how he was struggling throughout the whole entire Linkin Park discography. The angst from the maturity that Linkin Park was going through. It was just an amazing ride. You know what? It was pretty easy to listen to all their albums again because I fucking love these albums, including their weakest album, One More Light. This album was released back in 2017 and it was a very interesting album overall because they stripped away all the rock elements and even all the heavy elements from the previous album, The Hunting Party. Chester Bennington's vocals on this album were a lot dynamic and angelic at times, and he really showcases his vocals on this album. Although he does really showcase his vocals on the other albums, this one really hits home for me. A lot of people say this is a pretty shit album. I tend to agree, but there are some very strong elements on this album. The lyrics strong as fuck. This is Chester Bennington's swan song. In my opinion, this may be a little bit controversial, but I don't really care. But I believe that this album made him to do what he did because he was extremely depressed. The fans were at him saying, "Why did you change your sound? This album is shit." Everyone was just absolutely trashing this album non-stop. They were, don't say they weren't, but they fucking were. If you look at old reviews, they were absolutely smashing this album. And it was very interesting to me because believe it or not, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to react or review, is to give you my honest opinions. And I was watching reactions, they were fucking trashing this album. But there are some really good songs, like the start off the album is Nobody Can Save Me. And after Chester Bennington died, I heard this song again and I went, wow. Because although you get this fucking annoying chipmunk throughout the whole fucking album, the emotion that he conveys throughout this album is uncanny, it really is. And the build up to Nobody Can Save is just magnificent, how melodic it is. And then you got mediocre songs like Good Goodbye, classic Linkin Park sound, Talking to Myself. But then you got some mediocre songs like Battle Symphony, Invisible. When they first released Heavy, I was pretty disappointed as well. When they actually released this album, I was fucking disappointed. I really was, because I thought it was going to be another fucking Hunting Party where it was going to be heavy as fuck. I appreciate the change in sound, but obviously fair weather fans didn't really enjoy this new direction. I feel that was a turning point for Chester Bennington as he fallen into that depression. That may be a controversial opinion, and was this the album of his downfall? That's a question I'm gonna ask you. So next up is Living Things, a really tight and cohesive album. It's a much more heavier album than One More Light. Really enjoyed this album. Lost in the Echo has a really melodic chorus. Mike's rapping on this is fantastic. Really love Chester Bennington's vocals on this album. It's a lot heavier album than 1,000 Suns, the previous album. Victimize is one of the heaviest Linkin Park albums. Got Castle Glass as well, which is quite a ballady, melodic song. Skin to Bone, Until It Breaks. So many good songs off this album. In My Remains, Burn It Down. They incorporate a lot more electronic elements on this album, but they really sort of experiment on this album as well. But you can tell they transitioning back into this sort of sound from Minutes to Midnight at Meteoroa and Hyrbrid Theory on this album. But overall, it's still a pretty good album by this band. Okay, so one album that has absolutely grown on me is 1,000 Suns, and that is next. A fantastic fucking album. This is the most experimental album by Linkin Park, and you know what? It has taken me years to really enjoy this album, and as I was listening to it today, wow, I fell in love with it. The Catalyst is an amazing song. You got Empty Spaces, which is very weird. When They Come For Me as well, incorporating those electronic elements, very heavy electronic percussion, very interesting songs overall. Wretched and Kings, a much more heavier song on this album. It's a much more electronic based album. Chester Bennington's vocals are absolutely fantastic. Mike really shines on this album, and overall it's a really solid and cohesive album by this band. This was my weakest album until One More Light came out. I've listened to this album countless times, and you know what? The fucker has grown on me. So that's why 1,000 Suns is sitting here. So next up is Minutes to Midnight, a fantastic album again. Minutes to Midnight is another experimental album by Linkin Park. They moved away from that Meteoroa and Hyrbrid Theory sound, and they moved on to a sort of alternative metal style. But man, there are still some killer songs on this album, like Wait, Given Up, the elongated scream that Chester Bennington does, which is 30 seconds on Given Up. Amazing songs like Leave Out All the Rest. Leave Out All the Rest is my favorite Linkin Park song of all time. I nearly cried listening to this song again this morning of how heartbreaking this song is. Bleed It Out, Shadow of the Day is very interesting. What I Done, I really love the Halloween spooky introduction, but it's a good build-up, but damn, it still packs a punch, this album. They really experimented on songs like Valentine's Day, In Between, In Pieces, and Little Things Give You Away. This album does lack a little bit as we get the weakest songs by the end of the album, but damn, really strong album by this band. Really do enjoy it, and it's one of my favorites. Next up is The Hunting Party. Oh yeah, I love this album, I really do. I fell in love with this album once it was released in 2014, and I just wanted Linkin Park to continue this progression. I love how different this album sounds. Linkin Park channel the inner Hyrbrid Theory Meteoroa sound on this album, and it seems like they turned it up to 10. This album is angst, it's aggressive. They incorporate elements of thrash, they incorporate elements of just alternative metal, new metal. This is a new metal album as well, with some very killer songs like All for Nothing, fucking Guilty All the Same, The Summoning, Whoa, Wastelands, and Mark the Graves, Drawbar, which leads on to Final Masquerade, which again is one of my favorite Linkin Park songs. I just love this two-song suite, and the melody on Drawbar featuring Tom Morello, so damn good. I just love how it bleeds onto Final Masquerade. Overall, such an awesome album. I love how heavy and gritty this album is. You damn well knew I was pretty disappointed once One More Light was released. I do respect Linkin Park's sound towards One More Light, because we all know that Chester Bennington was really struggling. Maybe he wanted to do something different on One More Light, and they certainly did. And I forgot to mention One More Light on One More Light is one of the most beautiful songs ever. The Hunting Party. Absolutely fantastic fucking album. If you haven't heard anything from Linkin Park, check out this album. Beautiful. Okay, so this really tears me a bit, but coming up next is Hyrbrid Theory, another fantastic album. This is their debut album, and there are just so many killer songs. Dare I say 12 fucking songs. 12 fucking songs on this album are classics by Linkin Park. Paper Cut, One Step Closer, With You, Points of Authority, Crawling, Runaway, By Myself. So many good songs. In the End, A Place for My Head. Wow, so many amazing songs on this album. I just absolutely love it. I just feel this album has slightly aged a bit. This is a new metal album, through and through a new metal album. Mike's rapping is absolutely on point. Chester Bennington's vocals are incredible. I love how angry this album is. The production is fantastic. It's overall such a tight and cohesive album, and a classic by Linkin Park. Next up, and finally, my favorite album of all time by this band is Meteoroa. Another fantastic album. This album absolutely fucking slays. Absolutely adore it. Somewhere I Belong, Lying From You. Like, all these fucking songs are classics. Numb is on this, which is quite overplayed now. A very overplayed song, but damn, it's still a classic. Really love Chester Bennington's vocals on this album, and there are just so many positives. If I review this album, I'd probably give this a 9 out of 10, because it's that damn good. This is a masterpiece by Linkin Park. I just feel it slightly edges over Hyrbrid Theory in my opinion. But damn, this album is a classic, breaking the habit from the inside. And you know what? Chester Bennington was crying for help on this album as well, especially the lyrics, like the lyrics in Hit the Floor and Easier to Run. You can tell even then he was really crying for help, especially in his music. And absolute banger of an album. Fucking loved it. It's a brilliant album overall, and that's why it's sitting at number 1. Comment below what you thought about this album ranking. Do you agree or disagree with my opinions? So keep the discussion going in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.